Is life happening to you or is life happening for you? And you should ask yourself that.
Almost dying, my house burning down as a kid. I'm grateful for these experiences because they made me who I am.
Therapy keeps this idea going of life is happening to me.
There's a danger in saying that therapy is this one thing.
The universe conspired against me.
What I know, and I can tell you from a mentalist perspective, is your beliefs are almost they're almost hidden from you.
Negativity is important.
All right, what's up, boys?
Hey, what's going on?
Back for another one, round
That's
two.
right.
So, over the week, I was listening to Anthony Robbins being interviewed by this guy named Patrick Bet-David. Podcast amazing. Watched the thing like 3 times. Ended up taking a whole bunch of notes that I've been sharing with you guys all week. And we were talking about it earlier. He says something in there that really got to me, which is, some people look at life as if, is life happening to you or is life happening for you? Is a question that we should ask ourselves. And I've asked myself that, like, what do I think? What comes up for me? And you should ask yourself that. Is life happening to you? How does it feel? Or is life happening for you? And when I thought about it, it was kind of immediate for me. I felt that the answer for me has always been that life is happening for me. I wouldn't say always, but that life is happening for me in that even the worst things that have happened in my life, I see them as learning experiences. And even future bad events, I see them as opportunities.
That's powerful.
Growing up, I listened to Jay-Z say, I either win or win. Even in a loss, there's a lesson in there, so it evens it up for me. And it's just like, man, even in a loss, there's a lesson, so it evens it up. Yeah. There is no loss, and I think a lot of people see this as positive thinking. I don't. This isn't even something I think. I literally believe and feel this way, I guess. So I asked you guys. And you guys have some different ways to look at this.
Well, first, I like something you just said about this idea of anticipating it in the future, right? This idea that things are going to be difficult. I spoke to my students today, one of my friends, Mr. Rosario, his class, about networking and the idea of anticipating the no, right? You're going to get a bunch of rejection in order to move forward in life, in order to network and make connections. Anticipate the no, right? So there's something about
anticipate the what?
The no, right? Because you're gonna get lots of rejection as you try to move forward in life, make connections.
The no, like no.
Yeah,
yes.
people will say no, like the idea of Colonel Sanders, right? Like
Right.
he tried to sell the chicken recipe over 100 times. He was rejected no until he finally sold it, and now KFC's everywhere. So I think there's an important resilience that comes with that, and you're kind of saying that. So maybe on one side of this belief of the world is happening to me, or for me, I should say, then there is this kind of nice resilience you're building up. I kind of heard.
So
you
which
say
one? So anticipation of a no is more like, because I'm confused. Do you believe life is happening to you or for you? Which?
Well, he was saying that, like, he anticipates hardships, right? So he knows that's going to come and sees a value in that. So I almost feel like that's a good thing. That's a really positive thing that I wasn't really thinking about when you said life happening for me, but I think that came up with what you just said.
So what do you think, though? Do you believe that life is happening to you or for you?
That's the $1 million question, my friends. I think, I think both can obviously be true. It's a matter of perspective, internal, external. Is it my internal that's driving my life, or is it the external? I think when I was younger, it was definitely, I felt like life was happening to me. And I think at some point we all had a shift. And ironically, it's Anthony Robbins that kind of had that shift for us early on. For me, it was a book by him called Notes from a Friend that really transformed my life and got me into the self-development side of things. And that's when I kind of accepted this idea that, or changed my perspective, I should say, that life is happening for me, because then you kind of, like you said, anticipate the bad and find the learning in it, right? It's a reshaping of your perspective.
So which one do you believe in? Because it sounds like, and this is important because it's one thing to know it. Like if I know religion, right?
Yeah.
If I know the 10 Commandments, but if I don't believe that, then that's two different worlds. So the question to you is, I know you understand it logically.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
I believe Rocky should answer next. What's up, Rocky? Talk to us.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm going to go right into the ring. So obviously, if you give me 2 options, it immediately red flags a false dichotomy. It could be life is happening to me, for me. It can be both, or it can be none, or something else. I say that life is happening is like, let's say, the accident. or whatever happened. And then the interpretation that you decide to give it is it work is it happening to me, and is it happening for me? And I think that as I was younger, like I start with life is happening to me. And then if you do some self-reflecting, if you listen to this podcast and you start saying, well, what if I change my interpretation to it's happening for me? And I think that's more empowering. However, the book by, I think it's Adam Grant, he says that sometimes negativity is important, or being pessimistic, where I always believed that being positive was always important, and it was the answer.
Is it as like a security thing, or why would that be
He said
important?
when you're not sure of something, pessimism is better, because it allows you to ask questions. But when you know your stuff, then you can be optimistic. But being optimistic in an area and in a domain that you do not master, it's best to be pessimistic. So let's say, again, it's domain specific, and I'll give it back to you guys. I personally, just to answer your question more directly, where I am in my life right now, maybe because of my age or whatever, I want to believe that life is happening. That's the accident. That's the truism.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's happening for me. That serves me. But that's not the truth. It's the way I want to see life.
Mm-hmm. What I said before, and when we sat down, is that life is happening irregardless of my existence.
Yeah, and I kind of took that from you.
Yeah. So, but I think that's important, because I think Devonte brought up a good argument. He said, well, in that case, and you're kind of relinquishing your control in this case of saying life is happening for you, in the belief of it, right? So if there's an understanding of it and there's a belief in it. And Devonte, you were talking about how like it's your belief system.
Yeah, and we'll go into belief, because before belief, you need focus. And so one of the things that as I was listening to Rocky, and you kind of skated the question, but I think
I'll come back.
I think that depending on how I pose the question, I actually got the answer from both of you, which is that it's almost something along the lines of, I see why it would be positive if I think that life is happening for me, but I can't help but fall asleep and maybe know deep down that it's actually happening to me, or that, maybe to use a more kinder word, life is just happening. But really, they're both the same side of the same coin. I think that being honest with yourself is the first thing. So just be honest with yourself. Where do you stand with this question? Is life happening to you? And most of us that I feel not down, but in the struggle of it, still feel like, you know what, life is happening to me. How can you tell me that it's not? I have a disease. My mom got a disease. My sister, something happened. My maybe mother did this. My partner effed me over. My boss did this to me. How could you tell me that life isn't happening to me? I didn't deserve this. There's a lot of people listening right now who have had things happen to them that they did not deserve. And so that almost, not always, definitely not always, but a lot of times will create a person to say, you know what, I'm a good person, and this is just proof that life is happening to me. You know what I mean? I got to stay strong because these things happen. Now, that's a different mentality than the way I see it. I still see it that life is happening for me. So in that same situation, when that anything happens, it's already sort of in my mind perceived as this is part of the bigger plan. And some people might say, well, yeah, that's what being spiritual or religious is like. It's believing that there's a bigger plan. And, I guess that as much as, growing up, I saw a lot of the points of the atheists, and I felt maybe I believe in a lot of this stuff, but I kind of live my life from a very spiritual perspective, because I do feel that I'm part of something bigger. I do believe there's a bigger plan. And I do feel, incredibly grateful so much of the time nowadays. And I wonder if that's a possibility for people out there that are listening, who probably right now are thinking to themselves, that's good for you. You can fool yourself. You can trick yourself, but you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know the stuff that I didn't deserve in my life. And I feel that, and I try to really see. I probably wouldn't think different if I was them, because I would be them. But if I could speak from the outside in, I'd say, it's a matter of looking a little bit, and I think you start to see that life is not actually, there's not trying to come and get you. There's a lot of patterns. Talking about Anthony Robbins, there's a lot of patterns. If you notice the patterns, you notice, oh, it's not happening to me. These are things that happen. These are things that have happened. These are things that will happen. And if you can expect it, if you know that's going to happen, like I know I'm going to hit 40, 50, 60. The people that I love are going to start passing away. I should know this, right? Is it going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, it's going to be tough. But it's going to be a difference of thinking that imagine waking up and that happens. And then you're like, God, why did you do this? What didn't nothing, this happens. And worse, something might, a big pandemic might come your way. Another one might come your way. It's like, that is the game. And if you recognize the game, is it really happening to you? No, it's happening for you because you're here and you're not going to be here. That's the only two promises. You're here. How do we know? Because you're conscious and you can hear my voice. And the other promise I can give you is you won't be here one day.
So what's your point?
The point is you have two choices on what to focus on. And clearly, some people can't see it otherwise, that life is happening to you. And I'm saying that there is a possibility that you can look at the exact same thing different. And I'm saying you're listening to someone that sees it different.
So one of the things I'm writing in my book is be a magician. And what does it mean to be a magician is to not accept reality, to enchant reality. And that's kind of what you're doing, right? This idea of altering your existence.
What was it you said? Don't what?
Don't accept reality, enchant reality, right? So we can just take reality as it is, it's happening to me, and that's it. Or we can choose to be proactive in our lives and go towards great things and make decisions that benefit us in the long run. So I think that's important. What's coming up for me, though, is when you speak about this, it's almost as if you're talking about positive thinking. So there's nuance to this conversation that I think you need to get into. Because you can sit in your house all day and say, life is happening to me. This is wonderful. Money's coming to me. I live a life full of abundance. But we all know the secret, right? Great book. It was sounding nice. But at the end of the day, action has to go with that, right? So if you really want to get ahead in life, if you really want to make drastic change in your life, you can't just sit there and think positively. The other factor is action of some kind. So talk to me about that. Like, what is the nuance there? Is there action going with what you're saying? Or are you just, that's it, I believe it, so therefore it happens?
I think we don't, I think I give a lot of thought to this idea of belief and how belief impacts action. And coming from a magician perspective, coming from a mentalist perspective, I may not have the science on this, but again, I am a practitioner of someone who looks at, everyday people and their beliefs and what they focus on and what they don't focus on and how they give things explanations. And so to take action, which is usually revolving around how you feel and revolves around how you see things, in essence, your belief. So action is interconnected with your feelings and your beliefs, right? If you knew, for example, that you were going to get $1 million if you hit this bell, you would have all the motivation to go do it, to take action. Your belief is there, and it all aligns. I think that to affect the belief is what affects the action. I think most of us are trying to jump to the action, not addressing the belief. I think that the belief is you're right, has been brought down to almost nothing, because now it's like, oh yeah, just be positive about it. But I don't think this is just about being positive about something. This is a little bit deeper and more nuanced than that, like you said, which is, truly understanding your own beliefs. And what I know, and I can tell you from a mentalist perspective, is your beliefs are almost hidden from you. Your true beliefs are not at the top of your mind necessarily. These are things that run you, at least the beliefs that really are at your roots, are beliefs that you don't even know you had, that you grew up having. And so those are what's dictating your actions, along with several other things like habits. So usually your beliefs deduce to habits, which then control your decision making, so your actions. So you think positive one day, and you think to yourself, okay, I want to lose weight in January 1st of the year, and February 2nd, you're thinking to yourself, I wanted to lose weight, but I keep eating, this thing, and I keep eating that thing. It's because, your mind doesn't automatically just change your actions unless you can fully change your belief system, and that takes time. And I think, of course, then action does have to start following. And I think that it's not just belief system, but I'm saying that is it's one of the turning keys, at least for me.
Or does action then create the belief, right? So this idea of I can't go to the gym because X, Y, Z, but then eventually you start going to the gym, and over time you start to see a difference, and then you start saying, oh wow, maybe I am a fitness person. Maybe I am this kind of person who goes to the gym, right? Because people often will go to the gym and like, I'm not that type of person, and then they get in and they say, oh well, this is a possibility for me. So in many ways, it's talking about opening up possibility in our lives, which is important. Now, I never answered the question, so I want to answer the question. I do believe this idea that life is happening for me. And as I sit here and think about it and we have this conversation, for me, the reason why I say that is it's showing up in gratitude and being grateful for the experiences that I've been through. Almost dying, my house burning down as a kid, going from a high school dropout to a high school teacher. I'm grateful for these experiences because they made me who I am. Without those experiences, I don't know who I would be. But in many ways, they gave me the resilience, they gave me the drive, they gave me the motivation to do all the things that I've been able to do in life. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I think in many ways, to answer that question, it's that, right? I think life is happening for me because in essence, that's what gratitude is, right? Is appreciating life with everything that comes with it.
But
Dun, dun, dun.
something that I know have championed, and I'm kind of, which is this idea of therapy.
Okay.
And I say that this idea of therapy, which is in essence, I think, there for good. Therapy was started and it means well. Therapy is, in essence, trying to help people. I mean, what more noble thing can you do for humanity? So let's be clear. The intention is correct. Just like medicine was there to at the beginning, Advil was there to solve a problem. Tylenol was there to solve a problem. And then we started seeing kind of what it does to the liver. And it still is available to us as a solution, but it almost will cause more problems than it solves in the long run. And I think that you and I have seen therapy like this, where therapy, I see, actually keeps this idea going of life is happening to me. I feel that almost, maybe I'm conflating two things, but I feel like there's this belief in the therapy sort of solution world that people think, okay, these terrible things happen to me. I should go to a therapist. I should talk to a therapist about them. And I think that there's Alex Hormozi talked about this. It's almost like a justifying it. Like, you have the right. And I think,
Wait, how's that justifying anything? Because I think you're arguing that you're going in with an intention of, I need to validate my feelings, so I'm going to go to this person who's going to tell me, yes, you've been through this trauma, so therefore you have the right for this. That's not how that goes. Right?
Are you saying, because I think I got him. So
him.
if you go to a therapist, somehow you must have the belief that something happened to you.
Correct.
And therefore you have to get some sort of solution.
Correct.
Talk it out or
Correct.
whatever.
Well, it's not to you, right? There's a distinction to be made, and things are happening, and this is happening to me. Like the universe conspired for this thing to happen to me. Now, there are some people who live in that space, but then there's also where things just happen, and you don't take it as a personal attack.
how then does it affect you?
I mean, that's the same thing.
I mean, trauma is
a car
literally
can crash
that.
through the window, and I can get hit by that car, but that driver wasn't driving at me specifically. So there's a difference between
but you personalize the experience. Trauma is at a sense personalizing the experience, and it's nothing wrong with that. If I go through a traumatic experience, and it's especially if it's shocking, like right now, I don't know, something happens, that's traumatic. I'm not immune to trauma, but it becomes personal in a sense.
But so you're saying like this happened and I was affected. So the person doesn't have to say the universe conspired against me, but he can go to the therapist and say this happened and I was affected.
And then you can go in there with the mindset of shifting towards life is happening for you, because you can get an appreciation of what you went through, an understanding of what you went through, and understand how it impacts your life, and then show up differently in a more positive light.
Then do you leave? No. What happens is you come back the next day and then you explain what happened to you then. Says anybody that's been, I think, going on therapy for a long time is normally dealing with problems for a very long time.
I think it's dependent on the individual and the trauma that they've been through in their life. So there's
What's been your
different
experience?
Aspects. I only started therapy recently, so about in April. And yeah, I'm sharing what's going on through my life, my childhood, but it's really about like exploration of self and trying to understand myself and how I show up in this world and how I show up for my partner and different things like that. And it hasn't been perfect, right? There's a wrestling that happens internally, and accepting of yourself and how you show up sometimes. And then there's also an understanding, right? Listening to your therapist, and they do tell you like, hey, like you're just going through a human experience. Where you're like, this is normal. Like sometimes things are difficult, and that's okay. But yeah, I don't think I think it's all down to the individual and the therapist, and there's different forms of therapy. So I think there's a danger in kind of like trying to say that therapy is
there a
this one
solution,
thing.
or are you
There's
there
a danger
for a
in what?
solution? Do you think
There's a danger in what?
There's a danger in saying that therapy is this one thing when it's many different things. People go in different goals. People go in for different reasons.
If you said, couldn't the same be said about a doctor? Many people go, right, and it could be, and it would be accurate, right? Many people go to doctors for many reasons,
Sure.
but there's one general reason you go to a doctor, and that's to get better,
Sure.
right? And
Or
ideally,
to get understanding, right? So that's important too, right? Understanding is valuable. You go to a doctor when you're healthy,
Sure.
right? Annual checkup. I would hope you go to a doctor even when you're healthy.
I'm saying
No, you
that
don't.
doesn't
That's a no.
solve that doesn't solve you living a healthy life. I think that's pretty clear.
I'm a little bit lost. Where are we?
I'm
in
saying
the water?
that
What's the argument?
Go ahead.
No, what is the argument? Where are we
The
going
argument
with
to me
this?
is that there is a philosophy, and maybe because I got this from listening to Anthony Robbins, who was kind of mentioning how, there's at the time, especially in the 60s, 70s, there was this movement towards psychiatrists, and there was two sort of tug of wars, but there's psychiatrists, which eventually I think becomes therapy, which is aiming to solve a problem, right? And the problem is human discovery, all these human, the human story. You're trying to go through life, and so one answer to that was therapy. So,
But why
I
does
made
it have
one
to be a
Right,
problem
okay.
as opposed to seeking understanding?
All right, but let me just find out.
it
Let me just
came-
get oriented in the
Yeah, so
conversation. I am
it came to
completely
solve. So better yet, so Six has taken it to now we do therapy.
let me say
to do
this.
self-exploration.
But let me
Now-
say
let me
this.
just-
Let me say
hold
the
on.
benefit of therapy, right? As opposed to what you get elsewhere. Right now, we're all listening to respond, as opposed to a therapist who's listening for inquiry, right? They're coming with a sense of curiosity, and they're going to ask you probing questions to lead you to your own understanding, right? So they can't solve anything for you, right? They're trying to help you get to a point of solving whatever you're trying to solve or understanding what you're trying to understand. Again, it's not about going, and I got an answer. Thanks for answering the question. I can get out of here. I don't go there, get a prescription, call it a day. I mean, for some people, sure, there might be specific things that you need a prescription for. But again, it's going to vary across all people, and everyone's going to have a different purpose. And it doesn't always have to be with struggling, right? How is it different than life coaching? I mean, coaching is giving you more feedback, I would say. But again, as I study coaching and leadership right now, a huge aspect of that is leading with your goal. What do you want to achieve? And asking you questions. It's very similar to therapy in the sense I'm trying to help you reach your understanding to reach wherever it is you want to go. That's a positive thing, right? Why would that be?
Because it's a positive thing. So you won't understand what I'm saying if you don't, at least if you don't believe that I believe that therapy is trying to do something good. I'm saying it's not living up to its promise. I'm saying that there's good that comes from it.
Have you been to therapy?
No, I haven't.
So how could you say that?
Everybody listening that loves therapy is like, Devonte. And look,
I'm
this
just saying,
is-
try
this
it
is-
out. Like at least.
I mean, have you tried crack?
No.
How do you know you don't like it?
I don't know if I like it or
Oh,
not.
okay.
I
So there's a
assume I
lot
don't
of
wanna
things
try
we
it.
don't try, it's just for me, I think that it definitely is for some people for sure. I think it would be really ignorant for me to act like it hasn't absolutely saved lives. So people listening right now that are thinking to themselves, man, Devonte doesn't understand that I went to a therapist right when I needed him. Again, I genuinely understand the need of them, just like I would go to a doctor right now if an emergency
So
happened.
what are we talking
It's
about?
not
I just-
sol-
what
to
are you
me,
trying
I'm
to say?
sorry.
I'm not
like
confused.
I've been lost for like the 10 minutes.
It's not. Look
I'm
at it.
just
Look,
saying-
it's not solving the problem it said it was solving. If
But
you're
what's
somehow
the
confused
problem?
by that,
Are we okay? So
What's the
because
problem?
therapy is not solving
All right.
the
So
problem.
now
it
we're
said.
talking about therapy. That's what we're talking about, right? That we're
Right,
talking
well,
about.
we've been talking about that for a minute, Rocky.
No,
I
I
don't
understand.
know. Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
know that we were going from
Rocky's
belief.
I know you
believe
guys
you said
can't see this, but
action, right? You said
Rocky's got 3
action.
pages of notes, so he's about
No,
to
no,
come
I'm
in with
just
the
like
knowledge.
like I'm going this. We're going so wide. I don't know where we are.
Let's bring
So
Rocky
I
back. Come
remember
on.
you're saying that, that the belief, right? There's a certain belief, and then you brought the conversation of action, and then you said, well, action is somehow influenced by your beliefs. And we know T. Harv Eker says belief will influence your thoughts will influence your feelings, and your feelings will influence your action, right? And then you said, that for you, thinking on life is happening for me, it's more about gratitude, and that's something that that you are practicing, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the Stephen Colbert interview where he talks about the idea of and he talks about his obvious connection to God, but I think he really expresses when we're talking about death and all these things, and he really goes into this deep, profound thought. If we can clip it, we should clip it. But I think incredible find there, Stephen Colbert talking about God and his feelings, and it's the understanding it's a beautiful thing. This is a gift that we've been given. We're on this earth that otherwise people don't have this experience, or things or spirits don't get to exist, and we have that fortunate experience that we should be grateful for.
Right.
And what are you connecting that to?
To back what he was just saying, because that's what I was going back with the gratitude, and I thought about the Stephen Colbert thing, and I was like, yeah, this is beautiful. Even the worst things that have happened in my life have been a beautiful experience in some way.
And I think that's therapy. Hopefully, will have you reframe.
Well, hold up. What? I mean, I brought up therapy. It was after you said grateful, but then you said something else. We were talking about.
I have no idea.
I know what it was.
Therapy.
It was this idea that therapy. I was saying because he repeated it. Remember when he said, "Oh, I got it." That therapy is in essence sort of promoting this idea of life is happening to me, not for me. Let me stop there because somehow if we don't get that point,
I don't think so. I don't.
That's fine. But at least that's what started this. Let's
Okay.
because everybody's like, we're lost. What were we talking about? That's what started it. I simply said therapy. I pressed the button. I said therapy, and then Rocky repeated it. So Rocky, you got that part. And that was it. And then I simply said, and then it is not to steal the benefits of therapy, but then I made another point, which is therapy doesn't live up to its promise.
What is the
What was the
promise?
first
That's what I
point?
wanna
I'm
hear.
sorry.
I
let me
mean,
do
what is you please tell me, since you have taken therapy, what is
just
the promise of therapy?
but I just want to get the first point.
Okay,
What is it? Therapy is what? The first point was
I repeated it twice. Sorry. So do you know what it was? I literally repeated it. Sorry.
right.
I'm talking. I'm going
And then
fast.
I know the second one is therapy hasn't lived up to
No,
to
okay,
the
yeah,
hype.
therapy. Okay, I got it.
He's
I got
saying
it. I said
therapy
is-
promotes-
you repeated this. Therapy. You got the word? Therapy?
Yeah,
Rocky has to write it down, guys. I know you guys have heard me say it
Right.
already. That therapy is in essence promoting this idea of life is happening to me and not for me.
I don't know if it's promoting it. It's there for people who has something happen.
Maybe
to
not
them.
promoting it. I'm going over. But you what I said earlier was something along the lines of maybe not promoting it, but it sort of works with people that I believe have that sort of mindset. That life has happened.
So
to me.
something happens to a fish, right, or to an animal, right? What happens is there's an imprint of that happened. The animal or the human being, we don't decide I'm going to remember this. It's remembered.
Correct.
Going back to something innate, which is survival. Okay, so if something happened, it's going to be imprinted.
Yes.
Okay, now that imprint has some value. Don't do that again, says the unconscious mind or our programming,
Unless
our
it's
biological
traumatic,
programming.
unless something happened that's traumatic. Somebody went through a sexual something that didn't
Right,
teach them
something
a
right.
lesson.
So it's
but
an
just was
imprint,
just
right? So it's an
terrible.
imprint. However, that imprint and therapists, and I'm a success coach. What we do is, okay, so the imprint was valuable maybe during those times. And maybe you can keep the memory, but let's just get rid of the emotion attached to that memory. Because in my book, The Green Zone, that's what we're talking about, detaching the memory from the emotional, because we call that a charge, right? So that memory has a charge. So the therapist is saying that happened to you, right? Or that happened, there was an imprint, and that imprint does not ask for your permission. It's biological. And now the therapist works with you, so you detach the charge to the occurrence, so that you can look back and not have like this emotional reaction, negative emotional reaction.
No argument there. I mean, I'd have to be Dr. Eva to say that that's bad. So I think that that's fine.
Right.
I'm saying it still does not live up to the long-lasting solution that you would think happens, which is, do you believe that you teach somebody with that, and are they able to leave with that? And maybe most people. And I think if that can happen, then I think that's the goal of a therapist, is to give them a certain, let's say, perspective, or a certain line of thinking that allows them to deal with different situations that happen and that will happen in their lives. But if somehow and there's a good book on this, I have to forget, how therapy has failed us or something like this. Which
you mentioned that about the education system.
It was on, the lady was on Joe Rogan. I'll put it in here, which is that the intention of therapy is good. That's what you think. That's a straw man that you've put me to argue. I'm not arguing that part, right? So it's like, I get it. Like there's literally people here that will comment, and I'm a mentalist. I know it will happen. That's not my point. My point is clear. Just like medicine has saved millions of lives, there is something better that it's also pointing at, which is the actual philosophy that the therapists themselves share, which they're trying to share. Now, I'm not saying there's no point of a therapist. I'm even sharing that we've the family unit has fallen apart. Community, spiritual organizations have fallen apart, and so I think that we're left with having to go to a therapist as our last option, because it's like, who else do I talk to this trauma about? How else do I think about it? And I explained to you the first time we spoke about a therapist. I said, isn't it funny that eventually they must have some sort of moral compass? They themselves need to have some sort of guide that sort of guides them, because that's sort of how they share their perspective with you. They may not give you answers, but they share perspective. And so why not go get a perspective yourself? Why not live life? You are living life. You know what I mean? And so you can leave it. And again, I'm not, it sounds so terrible, because what it sounds like I'm saying is like, go get help. Please, if you are at the brink of life, go get help.
Yeah.
That is what I would go get help. So let's be clear.
And we're going to put the details down below.
So what is your
somebody
point
who's struggling,
then?
I just want to point
The
this out.
point
Wait,
is that
guys,
it is not. I'm trying to
okay.
solve a longer issue here, which is that there's it's kind of, here's maybe, I've been getting big into health and nutrition. It's like now, for so long people were trying to get healthy, and there were so many different ways and so much energy being spent in different ways. All these organizations were trying to do good, whether it was vegans, whether it was this. But the more we've learned, we're like, oh man, we don't have to strive to any of these things. There's something that we can learn that we can now manage ourselves. Okay, now I see what to stay away from, what to do. And I'm saying that the organization, this idea of therapy, the way at least it was built out many years ago, I think now it's maybe getting better. It was not making the problem get any better. Mm-hmm. And Anthony Robbins said this. He was like, one of the proofs was like, how many people here like know somebody that's going to at the time it was like a psychiatrist or whatever that has gotten better, and like it was like 90% haven't gotten better. And because getting better is like an inside job. You know what I mean? And I understand that therapists are there to sort of re-guide you. And again, as an emergency, that's necessary. But it's even more important to learn these questions for yourselves, to go in and do some inner work.
You want to say something? I want to.
Yeah, very important. If you are struggling with mental health issues, or somebody you know or a loved one, make sure you check down below in the comments. We'll provide some resources there for you. So keep that in mind. Okay. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Aside from that, the thing you're saying is you keep going to this idea of there's a problem to be solved, where it's almost as if you go to therapy to be fixed for some reason. And that's not the point of therapy, right? Like, we're all human, having a human experience, and it's not about being fixed, right? It's this idea that you can go for self-exploration, and everyone can go in with different goals. Sometimes people, I think you're arguing, well, people don't go in with goals, and they just go to the therapist to talk, and they don't know why they're there. And that's true,
Most
too.
people go in to get better. I don't know about, I didn't know that people don't go to therapists to get better.
So you're going in with the goal. So if you're able to achieve that goal, that is successful. So when you say something like, well, it's not working, I think you're looking like as if because more people go to therapy, that magically the world should be a better place. And I don't think that's, no,
I'm not saying it. I'm saying it's not working long lasting for that person.
You're talking about correlation versus causation. Why would it not be working for that person?
Because if you have to keep going to a therapist, wouldn't you say that it hasn't solved? Or maybe
different goals arise, right? So I worked
Right.
on this. I got understanding of
Right.
this. Oh, I can do this. I'm showing up differently in my relationship.
so more like
I'm
a
showing up
coach. I
different in
think
my
if you're
family.
operating more like a coach, I think that's fine. Like more like a life coach is what you're saying.
In many ways, it is. So like I said, I'm studying leadership and coaching, and I'm working with this great leadership coach, Ed.2. And as he's sharing information, one of the things that I asked him is like, I want to learn more about coaching and what that
Right.
process is like. And a lot of it is based on inquiry, understanding the person, understanding their goals, helping them reach those goals, but doing so through allowing them to discover the answers on how to get there. The answers are already within us. And as a coach, you're allowing people to find those answers within themselves, right? That's what you're supporting them to do. Because it is hard, right? Sometimes you need that structure. You need that format. You need that guidance. Where else do you get it otherwise? Now you argue, well, you get it in church, you get it in family, you get it in those different places. And people,
it's falling apart.
but people still do, right? So to say that it used to, how can you say they used to? I mean,
in its majority, sorry, it still exists. I'm saying
Islam is growing to great extents. I mean, Christianity is decreasing a little bit, but religion's still impactful. It's still guiding the world. It's still there's still wars happening around it. There's still people showing up to churches and mosques and studying. Like, it's still continuing.
Life is still happening, and you have to do something. In my book, I write Tylenol helps with headaches, but Tylenol does not eradicate headaches. So therefore, Tylenol is no good. No, it's false, right? So Tylenol helps with headaches, but just because it doesn't eradicate headaches, doesn't mean that it's not useful.
Mm-hmm.
We've already agreed that it's useful. That's a straw man. We're saying it doesn't solve it.
Solve what?
Right.
I need to understand.
Right,
What do you want
in
to
this case, the headaches. In this case, life. It's used as a lifeboat, as a life. Sure.
But what if life is something not to be solved?
Exactly. Like
no,
hunger.
it's not to be solved. You're going through it. Right. And my thing is that if you need to go through it with a therapist, that's fine. I'm saying there's institutions that society created before hiring a therapist that cost money that you may or may not have. And so therefore, if what you're telling me the solution is based on something that people have to pay for, you're going to get a lot of people that are depressed and can't do shit about it. Because according to the solution we've created is that Tylenol is a solution. There's a free solution. There's a free available solution to the world right now that doesn't put them on a prescription of a therapist every week or every month. And it's your mindset. It's what you focus on. It's exactly what we've been talking about today, which is
it's not readily available to everybody.
We had Anthony Robbins. Think about this. I got exposed to these things between Rocky through you. So if I never met you, never would have obviously met Rocky. One of the first books you ever gave me was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which started my journey. Prior to that, I remember crying on my bed one day, breaking down, 17 years old, overweight, dropping out of school, felt like a failure. I spoke to my friend Danny T one day, and I think it was also you, and recommended Anthony Robbins. I remember you mentioned him. I talked to Danny T. He said, go get this book called Anthony Robbins, Notes from a Friend. I took my last few dollars. I was 17, took the bus to Barnes & Noble's, purchased this book. It was a little $10 book, a $12 book, very small, thin book. Went home, read that book, and from there, my life changed. But that has to come from somewhere, right? So you're saying everyone's got a Rocky in their life. Well, that's not true either, right?
I didn't say that.
Well, you're implying it in many ways, right?
No,
That
we're
there's a
losing.
free resource.
We're losing family unit. I said, so I'm telling you this. What's caused us? I don't know all the answers, but I'm saying these are things that have led us to a situation where we're now, the Nietzsche said, God is dead, and we're gonna pay for it, and so this is how you pay for it. You wanna, if you want to eradicate belief systems, which I'm not saying, I'm not pro or against any of them. I'm just saying that then you're left listening to your therapist, because your therapist becomes the rabbi, it becomes the priest, becomes the elderman in the tribe, and so now you listen to him, and so, or maybe you listen to a life coach. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? I'm genuinely saying that you can listen to them. You should listen maybe for the wisdom, but take that wisdom. And I'm saying that you can take that, and that can be you, that can become you. And yes, life will continue to happen with you, and now you have a sword. And I'm saying that we've been sold that you need this therapist, like you need a drug, like a prescription. And I'm saying, sure, dialysis helps. I'm sure the painkillers help.
Where have you been sold this? Like, there's nobody on the corner handing me pamphlets about going to therapy. Like, hey, you need to find therapy. Yeah. That's not happening in my life.
Listen, there's a society, and I believe you have been shared in this movement of saying, in this generation, the solution, and it's not just you, it's many people, even I don't know about if it's Generation Z or millennials that really are like into this, like the therapy is the way, and because give me 1 second, let me finish this. And I get it. The last generation, fuck, like they didn't. And there's a lot. I was just watching a TV show, and they were like, well, look at the way the last generation dealt with it, drinking and beating and not dealing with their emotions. So this generation is like, we're gonna deal with it all. And it's just like, oh, okay, you go from bad to worse, and it's just like, you don't get to say that you're right because the last one was wrong. It's showing that, look, there are options for us right now. And the options are that we create that a spiritual connection, which you're saying is self-discovery. I'm championing that. I'm saying that maybe the therapist is a way, but there's so much free available options. You were saying that I have Rocky. I was very lucky to have Rocky, who's my dad, who was interested in these kind of things. I had my grandmother, though, who was spiritual. So some of us have people in our lives who may not be, they didn't go to Harvard, they didn't go to Stanford, but their spiritual understanding is deep. Their inner understanding, and I have to say, look, some of us have, grew up in the ghettos or know people that grew up in the ghettos, and they didn't have anything, and that is a problem. So in a way, I could see both sides of this.
I want to be very clear. Therapy is a way, not the way. It is another tool. The more tools in your tool belt, the more things you can build. That's all it is. So I don't know where the argument comes in that it's supposed to save the world when I don't know who's saying therapy saves the world. I feel like you have this idea of like, we were promised this and the outcome, we haven't changed the world for the better. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, I have something I'm going to try to connect it. Somebody has said, there are kids going hungry. So whatever your success is not good enough because their kids going hungry. I'm like, okay, so that's the litmus test that we're going to say we are successful. Finally get that trophy when all kids are not growing hungry. There's no, like you said before, when we were talking, there's no gradient. You know what I mean? I remember somebody invited me to own to be part of this company, and they said it was something about phones and phone bills and whatever. And he said this. He says, "When do you ever get to pay your phone bill entirely?" And then I say, "You don't." He goes, "Exactly. That's why this business model is going to be awesome. There's certain things we don't get to completely handle entirely. It's an ongoing process, hunger, thirst, biological needs, and so on and so forth. So, for instance, us knowing, the seeking, wonder, always want education. But a person says, but wait a second, you went to 8th grade. Why do you need more education? Yeah, but I'm going to go to high school. For what? That should have handled that. No, this is ongoing. It's forever. We're going to seek wonder forever.
And I'm going to challenge Devonte to try to seek wonder and be curious and go to therapy. Do a few sessions, right? Because if we're preaching seeking wonder and being curious, then you're like, I'm not like try. Just try. Just find out for yourself.
No, you actually put me up to this already.
You did a therapy-ish. You did a therapy-ish.
Why is it therapy-ish? This is funny how. Watch this. Why is it therapy-ish?
Explain what it was.
A therapist.
I thought he was a success coach. I thought it was.
I mean, he does success. He coaches. Yeah. He's a life coach, first of all.
And he got a PhD in therapy.
But it's mainly spiritual. Wait, where do you get a PhD in what?
He got a PhD
in what? What do you get a PhD in to become a therapist? Sorry, I didn't know there was a PhD.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's different variations of it.
Yeah,
psychology,
psychiatry. There could be psychology and stuff like that.
But because you take psychology doesn't mean that you took a PhD in becoming a therapist.
You can become. You could become. There's educations that will put
I don't know
you
his degree off the top of my head.
Yeah, especially as psychologist.
What I'm saying is, you can have certain, you can study behavior, you can certain things, but to become a life coach, please, where's this? I want to go to this college.
Not necessarily
to become a life coach. I mean, there's coaching federations that you should go to. Now,
what
you should
college?
probably
Tell me what verified college.
International Coaching Federation is the one that accredits most of the coaching. So, for instance,
but there's not a college.
Can you let me answer the question?
Because you asked me what college?
Yes, Columbia University offers a executive coaching certification that you can go and get that from. That's where That's where my coach went and got his. And
so he learned how to do what?
Executive coaching.
But what? So about life? So what does he teach? What does he learn?
Setting. Leadership in a professional setting.
How to develop leadership. So he teaches me leadership skills?
And leadership skills.
Yeah. That's not what I'm going there. I'm going there about life.
He knows how to coach and get you to reach your goals, but through specific...
No, we're talking about my problems, right? I'm going through a relationship issue. I go to that therapist. What in college did he learn that helps him with that situation?
You're talking about two different things here. You're talking about my therapist, or you're talking about my coach that I work with?
We're talking about therapist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did he learn?
Yes.
I
How does
haven't
the
quizzed him on it. I
college
haven't done it
degree-
myself, but you will understand patterns. You will see what the research says and have understanding of research that already exists, understanding specific diagnosis that may have to come up if it needs to come up, and hopefully it doesn't, right? Ideally. But
Like medicine diagnosis?
no, diagnosis of like you have maybe a disorder of some kind that could be showing up.
That leads to some
That's
sort of-
important to know, right? Yeah, I don't know. What are you trying to say? Like that he goes there and learns nothing? Like he learns... Oh, also, probably, I think one of the big things... I mean,
it's
again,
exposing what it is that they do.
But
I mean, I
haven't
want you to
studied-
open
I
this
haven't
up,
studied
'cause
it myself, but I'm also going to probably make an assumption here that you learn how to remove your bias from these conversations and not put your personal opinion in there. Because he's going to live his life his way, but he's not going to tell me to live the life the way that he should live it. He wants to guide me in finding the way that I want to live my life. What's important to me, my values.
What it exposes to me is that all the life coaches is exactly that. Somebody that's taken the confidence and said, look, I've taught myself different things. I've lived my life a certain way, and I know how to help people.
There's also literally there is a coaching federation that certifies coaches, and I think there's only a few hundred
to
thousand
become coaches, to
in
learn how to
America.
be coaches.
Yeah, but
I
of
think it's only a
course,
few
yeah.
100,000 that
There's
are
certain-
actually certified. Just because you go on LinkedIn and put coach next to your name doesn't
Right.
make you a coach.
Yeah,
right?
I took like 2.5 years to become an NLP coach. Okay, and they tell you the do's and don't. Like as they're testing me, you know,
But
they're
an
like,
NLP
no,
coach is not.
don't-
He asked for like a college degree. Like what
Well,
you
look,
learned
there's
NLP and you apply NLP to
there's
therapy.
an education. You know, there's the do's and the don't, and you're in school and you have teachers.
Do all
telling-
therapists take NLP?
No, there's different types.
Watch this.
types of
Do most
therapists.
therapists take NLP?
If that was the specific discipline.
So there is no one. What I'm trying to share
reaching.
here is that there is no one thing. Yes, all you've proven is that there's coaching degrees, and I'm saying that a life coach, right? Because there's a lot of life coaches listening right now that you're considering they're not real life coaches
I'm
according
not
to you,
saying not real. I'm just saying,
but
what's
they're
their
not
credential?
certified. Correct?
Possibly.
No, I'm saying-
literally, there are people. You go on LinkedIn, everybody's a life coach. They have no educational background to that.
And I'm questioning that if you're going to be a life coach, maybe if you're going to teach me about something specific, it matters. We're good. We have, yeah.
okay.
I think that's where. Sorry, we got distracted. He's
So
looking
go
at
back
this-
to your coach. What's his background?
This life coach, right? This is what.
This the guy that you went to for one session and you were like,
3 sessions, I believe.
oh, you did 3. I didn't know
Yeah.
about the other 2.
Yeah.
I only heard of 1.
You know, it's literally that. It's spiritual leading, which is awesome. You know what I mean?
So he's not a therapist; it's spiritual based. I guess
No,
then maybe a spiritual therapist. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like
I mean,
yeah,
my
spiritual therapist.
questioning went down more of a spiritual questioning. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, that was a response. But yeah, and then at the time was more like questions about relationship. I was just sort of testing where he thinks he actually was asking me questions, and I got to understand that what I was doing was, in essence, doing something that I do a lot with myself, which is thinking.
And what was his background? What was his credentials? Why
That's what
him?
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is what he does. He's a practitioner of this. He has people that have worked with him. He's worked with different people, but he doesn't have any sort of formal, college on life. You know what I mean?
I have a question. You follow Alex Hormozy,
Yeah.
right? You love him. You follow him. What do you consider him? Do you feel that he has good advice? Why do you have such high esteem for him?
He's somebody that like a black belt. He's put in the time.
Therefore, what? Just unpack that for me.
He has the experience and he has knowledge from that experience.
And therefore, you extract that experience.
I extract the knowledge and the fact that he's taught this knowledge, so he has a pretty efficient way of teaching the knowledge.
Right, and you take this knowledge. Has it helped you?
Yes. So I get what you're saying with this. You can
No,
go
I just
to
want
a life
I
coach.
just want to understand you.
You
I'm
can
not
go
pushing
to a
back.
life coach. The distinction is, how does one teach me how to deal with my life? There is an answer to that, and you said this earlier. You've taken NLP. I think NLP is very useful. The reason I said this earlier is, I think a lot of coaches do take NLP that can. These are things that can help. But back to this question of like when I went to my coach, what I realized is there are different ways of being, I guess, treated by a therapist, which is one being, I guess, led, through questioning, or being given actual pragmatic way to deal with something. In this case, NLP, which I feel is a pragmatic way
Or
to deal with it. Or one, I see more as a prescription, more as like an Advil that you take, that you keep taking, that you keep sort of airing out your problems.
You brought that question up before, and I brought it to my therapist, and I asked him, and I said, well, what's the difference between you and this person? And he goes, I mean, there's probably a lot of overlap, sure. And he said, my doctorate just allowed me to build a very large tool belt. and I have a lot of tools there, and I can share those tools with you. And it's probably more tools than most people may have. And then my years of experience I've developed over the years of 20 plus years of whatever doing therapy is going to play a role in that as well. That's it. I mean, why is that so complicated?
I think
Because he
eventually
makes
you want
everything
to.
complicated.
I think eventually you want to get that on yourself. Is all I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing. Where do you get the tools? You got to go find the tools. You can go to therapy to find the tools to deal with the stuff. That's it. That's
I think
the
you
point.
can find it there. I think I've been
can find it
clear.
in
It's
many
about
places.
that if you just keep doing it, I think you don't learn the.
Now, talking about
dealing
you're
with
saying
life.
like therapy is a problem because they're trying to sell you something and you got to keep going. How much did that guy charge you?
Well, I did the trial.
The what?
Yeah, no, I didn't fall for that.
What's
Yeah.
his price? Out of curiosity.
Very expensive.
Please tell people.
I don't know.
What's the
So
number?
it was like $15,000 for the year or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, and that's something that some people cannot pay, but you have different people trying to help that are really good, and
I
then
think there's a lot of. We're gonna
and then-
finish it up.
I thought it was
There's a
like
lot of free.
60,000
What
for a
I
few
finish
months,
saying
but-
here, I'll make my point like this. I think that guys, if you need help, there's so much help online. I think if
Yeah.
you can afford therapy, you got money like that, go do what you got to do. But for the most part, life is happening, and you have an option. You're gonna either look at it as life is just happening to you, or life is happening for you. And if you find yourself on the end of thinking that life is happening to you, I think that there is help out there. I think there's help online. Anthony Robbins was a big resource for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say his name. He's having a free something or another. Go look up. I'm not even plugged by him. I'm just saying there's free, real transformational. As he just said, Six said, he read a book that brought him to tears, and he had went through a lot. And I'm saying that had a more transformational effect. And though the therapy is working, it's helping, it has good intention, I don't think they compare. And that was my bit. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
but,
all I was
but
saying.
you're assuming that the book was more powerful than the therapy. It's all domain specific. And then also a book is not free, and then also free may not be the best option.
Yeah. Is this hitting YouTube?
Huh?
Is this gonna hit YouTube? We're gonna
Yeah.
post on YouTube. Yeah. If you're listening, jump to the YouTube channel, check out the video, hit the like button, and drop a comment. I'm giving out 5 of those Anthony Robbins books to anybody who comments. So we'll put a bunch of names in there, pick somebody at random in the next episode, announce those winners. We'll contact you. 5 of those Anthony Robbins notes from a friend.
Yeah, you
people
see that? Got
listening.
your free therapy.
It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. And obviously, if you're dealing with any mental health issues or anybody we'll put some resources for you all.
And if
to
you're already
access.
going to therapy and you're saying, you know what, Devonte, you don't know, tell me in the comments, put me on. I'm here asking questions. I'm not afraid to speak my mind, but I'm also not afraid to say that I'm wrong. And when I can learn, I might be tough, but I do break, and I'll say I'm wrong. Rocky, any last words?
No, just a great conversation.
I like this one. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to the next episode.
Yes. Make sure to subscribe, and appreciate you guys. Make sure to catch me on Instagram, Devonte Magic, DEVONTE, and then the word magic.
Follow me at Six Finger Magic. Spell it all out. SIXFINGERMAGIC. And if you want to learn some magic, youtube.com/magic6. Go learn something.
Rocky told me and Instagram. Rocky told me on Instagram.
And we're gonna help him clean up his Instagram. I looked at it. We need to give you some
Oh,
support,
yeah.
Rocky. I love you, man, but we gotta.
Yeah, if you guys are early adopters of the podcast, just
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't cleaned it up yet. We're gonna help him. We love him.
good.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.